My name is Arman Vakili, and you and I are going to go through the constitutional amendments together. I did a series already on the Constitution, and you can find the link to that somewhere on here. And if you haven't read through the Constitution, I would recommend you go through it. It's a very enlightening experience. And the reason that we're doing this mainly is because if you're a citizen in the States or a resident, and you kind of want to know what you can do and you can't do, what the rules and regulations of the United States are. That's basically what the Constitution and the amendments are. And the second reason, which in my opinion is the more important reason, is for us to know as a people, so for you and I to know as the people, that we actually have the power. The power is to the people. And as we go through the amendments and you go through everything, you'll kind of come to that conclusion yourself as well. And the reason why this is important is because the media, mass media, wants to make us believe that the power is actually in the hands of a select few. And they demonize these people by, saying the rich people are bad or the government officials are bad, whatever side you're on doesn't really matter, right? They do these things because they want our eyeballs, because it's very fun for us to watch these kinds of things and we get distracted. And through the process, we also forget that we actually have the power. It's not these people that have the power. These people are at our service, right? The reason why government officials are there is to help decide what's best for the people, ideally. And it's like business people become successful and wealthy because they are of service to the people. And so for us to understand that the power is with us is very, very important. And then it begs the question, okay, well, what is my power, right? Like, what are my rights? What can I do? And that is why we're going into the amendments together. So the 12th amendment is election of president and vice president. Okay, this is the longest paragraph that we've had so far. So let's read it and then we will go into the interpretation. Okay. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for president and vice president, one of whom at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. Okay. They shall name in their ballots the person voted for as president, and in distinct ballots the person voted for as vice president. And they shall make distinct lists of all persons voted for as president and all the persons voted for as vice president, and of the number of votes for each, which list that they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the president of the Senate. President of the Senate, as we, no, I think it was the president of Congress. That's the vice president. The president of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes for president shall be president, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. And if no person have such majority, then from the persons having the highest numbers, not exceeding 3 on the list of those voted for as president, the House of Representatives shall choose immediately by ballot the president. But in choosing the president, the votes shall be taken by states. The representation from each state having 1 vote, a quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members of 2/3 from the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary by a choice. And if the House of Representatives shall not choose a president, so the 20th Amendment changed the dates that presidential terms and congressional sessions started. Okay, so that's a note for this piece right here. So, and if the House of Representatives shall not choose a president, whenever the right of choice shall devolve upon them, before the 4th day of March next following, that's what was changed, then the vice president shall act as president, as in case of the death or other constitutional disability of the president. Okay. The person having the greatest number of votes as vice president shall be the vice president, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. And if no person have a majority, then from the 2 highest numbers on the list, the Senate shall choose the vice president. A quorum for the purpose shall consist of 2/3 of the whole number of senators, and a majority of the whole number shall be necessary to a choice. But no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of president shall be eligible to that of vice president of the United States. Okay. All right, so there's a lot of words, but this one is actually kind of simple. So let's review. Okay, so the first part is that the electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for president and vice president, one of whom at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state. And then the name is going to be in the ballot voted for president, in distinct ballots voted for vice president, and then they should make distinct lists of all the people that voted for as president, right? So all the people that were voted for to become president now need to be on a list, and then all the people voted for to become vice president need to be on the list, and then the number of votes for each person, which list they shall sign and certify, and then transmit the seal. So these are the electors, okay? No, excuse me. One of them they shall name in their ballots. No, it is. Yeah. So they shall name in their ballots who all these people were, and then count all of these things, and then they sign and certify, transmit seal to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. Then the President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and the House, open all the certificates and votes, count them. The people having the greatest number of votes for president will become the president. If there is no majority, then from the persons having the highest numbers, not exceeding 3 on the list, voted for as president, the House shall choose immediately by ballot. So if there is no majority from the top 3, the House of Representatives shall choose immediately by ballot the president. But in choosing the president, the vote shall be taken by states, their representation from each state having 1 vote, and then a quorum of this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all those, and the majority of the states shall be necessary to a choice. So the last part are the specific stipulations for which there is no majority voted persons, right? So it's like, it comes, if there is no majority, then we take the top 3, and from those 3 we can go through this experience of going by ballot. And then in choosing the president, the votes need to be taken by the states, and their representation from each state gets 1 vote, etc., etc., etc. So it tells you that if there's a majority person, then they become the president. If there is no majority person, we have to go through these things. And this is where the gray area kicks in. And they can come say, oh, there was no majority, because the voting system of the United States, for a lot of states, is pretty ancient. It's almost medieval, right? They send you a paper ballot and you fill it in and you have to mail it in. And I mean, you can easily fake that. That could easily be duped. Like, there are so many ways to, I mean, just go to Kinko's and print 1 million ballots in the favor of the person that you want, put some fake names and addresses on them as the people who sent these votes in. And it's just too easy. It's too easy to fake things like that. That's where the gray area comes in. And then there are states like Florida who are actually, doing digital voting systems so that everybody's vote is counted, and they can go and log on and actually see their vote being counted, and everybody just gets 1 vote, and that's how they track everything. Okay, and if the House of Representatives shall not choose a president, whether of choice, if the choice is presented to them before the 4th day of March, and this is changed in the 20th Amendment, so we're going to see that later, then the vice president shall act as president, just like if the president died or any disability happened, so on and so forth. The person having the greatest number of votes as vice president shall be the vice president, if such number be the majority. So very similar, but now instead of the House getting to choose, the Senate chooses. So the Senate shall choose a vice president from the 2 highest. Instead of the 3 highest numbers on the list, from the 2 highest, they will get to choose a vice president. A quorum for the purposes shall consist of 2/3 of etc., etc. So it just gives you details of that. But the key points here are, if there's no majority candidate for president, they get to choose from the top 3. If there's no majority candidate for vice president, they get to choose from the top 2. And then it tells us what the specific stipulations are in order for the votes to count and for the candidates to actually be accepted and, voted in as president. So this was amendment number 12. A very interesting amendment. We talked about, there was a portion of this, or there's a lot of resemblances to one of the articles in the Constitution specifically. It's kind of like going into a deeper, finer detail, but not really. With the exception of the dates and everything that they added over here, most of this was already covered in the Constitution and the article within the Constitution. So moving on to the 13th Amendment.